Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. We are joined by Dawn Moore today from Choices at Cypress at Home. I'm going to let her do most of the talking and let her introduce herself, but she's going to talk about all the services that she does and how it could benefit you and your loved one if you are interested. So, Dawn, if you want to just introduce yourself and your role, and then we can kind of get into it.
Thank you, Kinsey. So happy to participate today and share a little bit about aging life care management. I am a registered nurse by background and training, and also have my certification in care management. And I have been working in this field for over 30 years now through our Choices program, and it is near and dear to my heart. And truly a very specialized resource, and I'm just excited to share about it today.
Wonderful. So, do you want to start by telling us what exactly an aging life professional is?
Yes, well, I'll start with aging life care management in particular. And what that is really a specialized niche in healthcare that is a very holistic and client-centered approach to caring for older adults and or for those who have significant medical issues. It is it's really very specialized and holistic, because we really look at it is not just focused on the clinical issues and the clinical needs, but really the bigger picture, not only the client, but their families, their social circumstances. And it is very personalized and not cookie cutter. And so that way we are able to really focus on an individual's specific needs and really walk them through challenging circumstances for this, maybe for crisis management, but also possibly for ongoing long-term support.
Great, thank you. So, who are the types of clients that you work with? Who specifically benefits from these types of services?
You know, the folks who really benefit from care management the most are people who are dealing with some significant medical issues, maybe dementia, cardiac issues, ongoing clinical issues. Those who really don't have a lot of support family-wise. Maybe their families live, for example, I have a client whose kids live in Australia, California, and out in Wyoming. And so their family support systems aren't local, or maybe they don't have children. People who are maybe caregivers who really are overwhelmed and don't really know about resources that are available locally, or where to turn, how to connect to resources. Perhaps they're in the hospital and they don't know how to navigate the complex hospitalization situation, or maybe the follow-up from a hospitalization, and just other people who are really benefiting from care management, maybe are caregivers who really need to factor their own needs in and have their own issues, or maybe don't have support around them and need to have a bigger safety net that will really involve and include not only the person they're caring for, but will include them as well. So those are a few examples of folks who need it. It's what's really neat about care management and care coordination is that it flows. It's and it's very individualized and yet specific in its process. We have the thing that doesn't change is we are constantly assessing and identifying needs and problem solving and guiding people through how to make decisions and what to explore that will help them to with the ultimate goal of really living at the highest level of function and having the best quality of life. Oftentimes it can be, as I said, we may oftentimes begin because of a crisis, but more now people are recognizing, hey, I need a safety net around me now to prevent and avoid crisis managing. And so they are enlisting or hiring a care manager to participate in their care while things are good, and to really tweak and adjust, and to have someone to walk through the challenges, especially with people who have progressive illnesses or situations that will ultimately need more support down the road, possibly even placement, or just help with decision making and care organizing and orchestrating as they go through that process and that situation.
Great, thank you so much. And I know some clients have asked before when I've talked about these types of services with them, is this something that anybody can get regardless of their current level of care, or do they need to be placed somewhere? Do they need to have some sort of health emergency?
Absolutely not. Care management, we don't need a referral from any healthcare provider or professional to enlist a care manager to support and participate in your care. And actually, I think that it is so much better when a care manager steps in when things are not in a crisis situation, so that we're able to really help prevent a crisis and really equip folks and educate people on their disease processes, or on the resources that are available to help them take care of themselves or take care of their loved one. And what's really neat about this niche in healthcare is, again, it is not everybody has their own care plan, even though our process is very specific and very, very much the same because of the building blocks of how we start with an initial assessment that really gives us background, family history. We look at healthcare, just legal issues. We have, we really try to cover about 8 areas that we really like to specialize in and look at. But as I said, sometimes those issues aren't as pertinent as others, and everybody has their own circumstances and details of their situations, to where we may need to focus on one thing and then get back to make sure the bases are covered in the others. But I encourage everyone to start when things, aren't in a crisis, or when you're really just needing to understand better what it is that you're dealing with, and understand better our community of resources, which we have a great partnership and community full of resources now that we have really grown over the years. But oftentimes people don't know about those resources, or don't really understand levels of care, for example, if they needed to place their loved one or whatever. There are so many things that we don't know until we need them. And so it's so much better if we can educate people on the front end, rather than waiting and then educating them on the back end, where you may not have as many options to choose from because of a crisis or a situation if that happens. But even so, if there is a crisis, oftentimes, having a care manager to walk you through it is a wonderful thing, because it can be very overwhelming and stressful, and it's very, very helpful to have someone who is advocating just for you.
Definitely. And kind of going along the lines of crisis moments and having somebody there, could you talk a little bit more about what it means to be concierge level service, and how that's different from other types of services in healthcare?
Yes. Choices through Cypress at Home, we are a 24/7 service. So if we have if our clients end up in the emergency room on a weekend, or at nighttime, or have a situation with a caregiver, or their caregiver spouse is having a problem, and then we are available to our clients 24/7. And that is very, very beneficial it gives people a lot of peace of mind, because what life happens, and it doesn't always happen 9 to 5 on a business day. And it's very, when you have that relationship of a care manager who already knows your circumstances, who knows, I think of the care manager as a quarterback who's really in the middle of a team with the person we're serving and their caregiver. We know all of their participating children and or who their physicians are that are taking care of them, who their care participants are. Maybe they have a home care agency or some neighbors who help, or we know their chaplain. We know we are able to really kind of as a care manager and care coordinator, we are aware of who all of the participating care participants are, so that we can really bring them all together towards a common a goal of, again, quality of life and the highest level of function. But also, oftentimes what we find is that different services are doing their thing and aren't always aware of what everybody else is doing, where the care manager brings all of that together and is aware of all of those folks, clinical and non-clinical. And so we are able to really have a plan, hopefully in place before something happens, so that everybody kind of knows what would happen. And the first thing that would happen would be that you would call your care manager, and he or she would be there to step in and guide you through the crisis or the situation.
Yeah, it's a really special thing, and it's a great relationship that you get to have with your clients because of that concierge level of care.
Yes. And what's really neat about it too is, some people really need more hand holding than others. Others are doing beautifully and really have a great plan in place. I'm always amazed at, especially through the Dubin Center, I've met people who really are, for example, very forward thinking, have put a lot of thought and effort into planning forward and coming up with their ideas and plans. But they just, need a little bit of hand holding, or knowing that there is a safety net around them just in case, where that care manager is available to them. I may not see them but once a month, just to touch base and to check in and make sure everything is really running smoothly, and that the services that they have or the systems they have in place are working for them and they feel supported. But they know that if things changed tomorrow, I would be able to be there, or their care manager would be able to be there to step in and walk with them and advocate and guide them through the circumstances that they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's great. I like that you highlighted that it's different from person to person, because it's another question that I've had before is, do I have to have this service every week? Do I have to meet with, how often do we have to meet? Some people do just need a monthly check-in, and that's
Right.
perfect. It's a great starting point.
Absolutely. And you know what? There are no rules. There are no requirements as far as, and we figure that out together. And it may, as I said, there may be seasons where there is more hand holding and support required. But our goal is really to help people remain and maintain as much autonomy and independence as possible, but to feel supported. And we also find it very, very important to bridge the that gap with kids who live somewhere far away that are worried about their parents, and being here kind of like surrogate family for their loved ones that are here, who know what their parents' life looks like, knows the details of that, and can support them so that they don't have to fly on a plane and come to Florida every time there's a problem, who can really reassure and give them peace of mind too, and knowing, hey, my care manager knows what's going on with, our care manager knows what's going on with our family and the details. And if I don't feel comfortable about things, or if my mom is sharing something that makes me concerned, or when I come down to visit, I have some issues or concerns, I have someone that I can go to that will follow through and give us ideas and support in those ideas. But everybody's very, very different as to what they need, what they want, and also just the dynamics within their families.
Yeah, definitely. I was also gonna ask too, you've touched a little bit on it, but what are some of the specialties that you and other professionals over at Choices have specifically that you can help out clients with? What are your different areas of knowledge?
Our areas of expertise under the Aging Life Care Management model are really 8 very specific areas that we recognize people need that kind of are very comprehensive. Obviously, health and or disabilities, medical situations, diagnoses, that is very much a part of what we need to, that we focus on and really try to understand and do a lot of teaching and education about. Financial issues, oftentimes we find when we step in that people are overwhelmed and may not be paying their bills, or they may not know that they can use their long-term care insurance policy and tap into that for some care support. Maybe they, need someone who can organize and make sure that they're being reimbursed properly for their insurance claims and things like that. I mean, there's a large area of, that we just really want to make sure that we touch on that and make sure that area is covered. We're not financial experts, but we know how to bring in support if we identify that people are having some issues or need some expertise in that area, whether it be a money manager, whether it be an accountant, whether it be an insurance person to help understand things, whether we're looking at benefits in helping someone to apply for care support. Housing, we are very knowledgeable about just levels of care, what our community has in regards to care facilities in our community, what they provide and offer. We have many relationships in our wonderful community and many more options than we used to have to really serve people if they aren't able to stay at home, or if they need rehab or need long-term care down the road. Sometimes families don't know what level of care their loved one would need, and they are placed in the wrong place, whether it be that they need memory care, whether or not they need a skilled level of care rather than assisted living. Or whether or not they're not happy with their current placement situation if it's not at home. These are things that we look at and that we feel that we are experts in and can help guide folks with. Families, sometimes families are challenging. There's maybe siblings or that may not be on the same page as to how they want things to be handled for their parents, or they don't even know where to begin. And obviously that dynamic of having families step in and start guiding their parents when they've never had to do that before, it can be very challenging. And so it's oftentimes very beneficial to have an objective, trained professional who can really bring families together and help them to understand what they're dealing with, but also to come together and make good decisions for their loved ones. And again, bridge the distance, which is oftentimes the way it looks for families these days because of kids living so far away, or people not even having families. So local resources, we have such a wonderful community and such a rich community full of resources that I am so proud to be a part of and to partner with our resources and our supports that we have here. Sometimes people don't even know what they need or even what's out there. So we are very knowledgeable about resources and know how to tap into them and know how to navigate utilizing them and guiding folks and bringing those resources into their situations so that they can have a better outcome and again have a quality of life and be able to function as well as possible for the long haul or for the short haul, Advocacy, you know what? Advocacy is huge. We all need advocates. We all need someone who's going to not only be able to carry out and really just understand our wishes and to advocate for those wishes for us. And I don't mean that as, necessarily not in a legal way, but just in advocating, and whether it be in a hospital where we would be able to say, no, this is not what, she would want or he would want, or we need to better understand what our care options are here, or advocacy can be very difficult when you're ill or when you're in a situation under stress where it's hard to advocate for yourself. And so it is a very large part of what we do. And oftentimes legal issues come along. People are not always, they don't always know about sometimes windows of time, especially with dementia, where there are, seasons where you've really got to make decisions while you are capable of making decisions. And oftentimes people don't know that, and may wait too long to kind of, I guess, clarify and identify what they want and don't want, or who they would want to be responsible for them, or make decisions that they couldn't, for example. Or there are many issues that might require some legal support and participation. And so we are able to identify those things and to really guide someone to an elder law attorney or to some legal support if necessary, guardianship issues, all of that. And then again, crisis intervention. And I would say that's another big one, along with advocacy. I feel like we are crisis experts. We don't like to be, but you know what? We're used to dealing with crises and really walking people through them and helping them to come out on the other end with, just better understandings of what's going on and how to move forward.
Yeah.
So those are really the knowledge areas of expertise that we have and that we focus on oftentimes with our clients.
Great. It's a lot. It's great though that you guys are so knowledgeable.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying we're experts in all of those areas, but we know who the experts are and we can identify when we need them.
That's right. And that's the important thing.
Yes.
Definitely. So obviously anybody that is interested can contact the Dubin Center to learn more. I will put Dawn's information as well in the description of the video, but just so folks kind of have an understanding of what the process looks like if they are interested in getting started. Can you kind of just explain what that's like? You mentioned earlier somebody does not need a referral to get started with your services,
right?
So what does that initial assessment look like?
So the initial assessment is pretty comprehensive and it takes about 3 hours, and the assessment is done in the home. And we are really looking at many areas because it's a very comprehensive service we're looking at. We're going to look at the home for safety. We're going to obviously look at what brought us there. What are the, identify, the goal of the assessment is really to identify needs. And then to, once we've identified where, what the needs are, and everybody is in agreement to moving along and moving forward, sometimes just an assessment and then recommendations is a great place for folks to start. That may be where what they need to begin with. And with that assessment, what we do is if everyone is in agreement to go forward with coming up or putting together a care plan, what we do is we will give them resources and ideas on a plan of how to move forward and what resources to bring in that will kind of plug some holes or meet or serve a need. And then, and oftentimes, or talk about, perhaps they just really want to talk about, they're doing fine. They're taking care of business at home and they really have enough support at home to where things are going along smoothly, but they really want to think forward about what they might want to consider for the long haul. For example, maybe moving down the road is going to be necessary for safety reasons or whatever. we may want to talk about that, and come up with a plan where maybe the loved one is going to go and view some care facilities, just so they know what's out there and what they look like, what the differences are between the levels of care. So what we're trying to do with that assessment is identify needs and then put together a plan of care, and then have something to kind of build off of. It's sort of our building block. Some people are overwhelmed and really need someone to help them move forward from those building blocks and go forward with. And so if that's necessary, we will make what we might decide is to agree to meet on a regular basis, whether it's once a month, after we help them put those services in place, or start somewhere, or digest the information that we've talked about. Then they may want some follow-up to make sure that they have some help in propelling forward and really continuing to stay educated, continuing to really look at and I want to say assess and continually evaluate how things are working, and then grow or build off of that original care plan. It doesn't have to look any particular way, but many people do have some ongoing follow-up of some kind, just so that they don't lose the momentum, and that they also have a care manager to kind of keep them on track and to keep them going forward and to keep them feeling supported. But for families, sometimes they just really want resources, and they want to understand what's out there so that they can kind of explore that. And then, we're available to follow up and to meet with them again if and when they need us. Others may require ongoing and participation. And I mean, I have some of my clients that I've worked with for a decade, and it's so it really is a very fluid and very individual plan.
And is there any fee or cost with the initial assessment?
Yes, there is a fee for the initial assessment. I believe it's $400.
Okay.
It is worth every penny of that, if you ask me, but because it is very, very comprehensive, very specific, and it really does give people something to really build off of. And then after that, as far as it is a fee for service program, but it's really based on time, and everybody really has their own idea of what they would want for that. We also do work with, some long-term care insurances are willing to pay for our services, so it's worth it to explore that as well. Some family members choose to pay for their parents because they can't be here, and they would, they like to enlist a care manager to really help them in supporting their parents from a distance. So it's really, there's no one size fits all. It's just very, very individualized.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about it.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes it so successful, and it's just a wonderful program. And I'm glad that I got the chance to talk with you this afternoon. I think we covered all of the questions that I have. So for those of you that are interested, or if you have questions for Dawn, like I said, I will put her information in the description of the video. You can also ask somebody here at the Dubin Center. We have lots of brochures available. I'd be happy to talk with you about the services if you have more questions, but Dawn is definitely the expert here. So I would encourage you to reach out to her if you do have any questions, or if you want to get an assessment scheduled. It's a wonderful service. It really is. And I can't speak highly enough about it. Thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing all this information.
Kenzie, appreciate the opportunity. And just in case, I want to just make sure that the Cypress at Home phone number, if you want, I will share it. It's 239 349 3300.
Perfect. Awesome.
And thanks again for the opportunity. And I am happy to speak with anyone if they have other questions about care management in general. And so appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.